Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hacker Dojo. Raise your hands real quick if you're a hacker. All right. We're all 99% of us are hackers. So I'm Anthony Moose, for those of you who don't know me, and we have a wonderful guest here tonight,
Steve Austin.
Mr. Steve Austin. So for those of you who don't know you, Steve, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. So I've been in and out of Hacker Dojo for many, many years. I grew up in Southern California. I got to tell you why I came here. I was working successfully as a sales engineer down in Los Angeles. This is a long time ago, guys. It's like 30 years ago. And that's when the computer chip business was big. It was when it was blossoming. It was new. It wasn't a mature industry at all. It was happening in the news frequently. And I kept hearing this in the news. Anthony, it was driving me crazy. I thought, what are these guys doing? And finally, I quit my job and drove up here. And I didn't have a job. I just went door knocking. And I ended up joining a startup. It was about 2 years old company making a computer chip machine. It's like the size of a dishwasher. And so I got hired to be the sales engineer. And my boss said, okay, this was the tough part. He said, this is how it works, Steve. I don't care about any good ideas, and I don't want to hear about any good inventions. I want you to do one thing and one thing only. Get 3 corporate customers within 90 days so we can meet the payroll. That's it. And so I thought, boy, he's pretty cold, but I didn't want to lose that job because I just got here and I didn't know anybody. So I was running around going to all the computer chip companies, and I got my 3 orders, and I ended up staying for 11 years. And we grew from 15 people to 80 people, and we went from about $70,000 or $80,000 revenue a month to about $6 million a month. And that was, you could easily double that to make the money equal to today. So it was really a fantastic experience. And the machines went from $30,000 a piece to $1 million a piece during that time. Everything got more complicated. So it was a fantastic experience.
And that time you're mentioning, this is before the valley was Silicon Valley.
Silicon chips, that's how it got its name, Silicon Valley. And there was a fab, actually one of the very first fabs is right around the corner. It's over on Fairchild. That's where this actually is ground central, guys. This is the core of everything. I never really left this neighborhood driving around every day. So, but all that industry matured, and then it's so expensive here, so the fabs moved out. They went other places, but the headquarters are still here. And then we moved on to the next thing, which is what Silicon Valley does. It moves on to the next tech. And right now we have AI and blockchain and health tech and ag tech, but in 5 years there'll be something else that's new, because that's what we're good at. Whatever's new, that's really tough.
We were exchanging some words over in the back. Can you tell us about the evolution and waves of technology? You've seen things come and go, things come and stay, people come and go.
There's somebody made a one-page map that goes back to around 1938 approximately with Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard started off in the garage in Palo Alto making these test equipment. Well, they made a lot of the radar stuff that happened in World War II. And that tech really got this thing going with Stanford and SRI. And then that came, and then the next thing came, and the next thing. So I don't know all those next things, but there's a one-pager that shows this thing. Then came computer chips. And as the computer chips got more powerful, then came software, which wasn't that big a deal, became way more big deal, obviously. And then you guys, you take these phones for granted, but you would not believe how many companies came and went and got funded that were a big deal, that were this size, but fatter, before the smartphone happened. There was lots of them that were funded around here. I can't remember all the names, but there was one right across by the freeway over here, and that company got about $500 million. Do you remember, Zonker, who that was?
Danger.
Who?
Danger.
Danger? Yeah, there's Danger, and there's some others, and they had this hardware piece. It was supposed to be a contact manager. It was okay, but it was too clunky. They came and went out of business. Then somebody else bought it. Then someone else came, and then came Silicon Graphics, and wow, we got color, and we got a mouse with Macintosh and all that stuff. So every step, and then someone says, what I can do with this? Wow, I can do something new. So that evolution keeps coming, and now we're at this level, and that's, I don't know, that's just a game that we play here, actually.
What is special about Silicon Valley? What can you relate to? What are the good sides, the downsides?
Okay, you guys, you know what? I was thinking about this afternoon. Something happened that completely shocked me when I got my job as a sales engineer in the computer chip business. Because I came up from Los Angeles and I was selling to big companies, like big manufacturing companies. Okay, so I come up here and I'm going to the computer chip companies, and there was once a month, there was a meeting of the people of this particular technology, and I walked in the first time and I was shocked. All the competitors were together having lunch. And not only that, you guys listen to this, they were sharing problems and solutions. Now, I grew up with competitors would never talk to each other at all. Why would you do this? That's not what was happening. Instead, what was happening is guys were cooperating, and they were not giving away trade secrets of their company. Instead, they were saying, look, there's certain problems in this industry for computer chips every single one of us is facing. The common problems, if somebody can solve it, why don't we just share it so the whole thing lifts together? And that's what was happening. So there was this spirit of cooperation, collaboration. And that's, I believe, is the kind of undefined, super competitive advantage that has always been unique around here. Do you agree? Yeah. So that just shocked me, and that existed today. And that's one of the fun places of Hacker Dojo. Because you can come in here with a new idea and share something, and you could easily get help for any kind of technology you want. It's outrageous. Get anything you want.
So speaking of the spirit and soul and energy of Silicon Valley, what is so unique about Hacker Dojo, where it's situated here in Silicon Valley, and how does it help, not just a hacker hangout, but what is so unique? And you've seen, the different evolutions, the booms and busts, not just in tech cycles, but even Hacker Dojo itself, and we'll get into.
Okay, so here's kind of my take on this. I mentioned at the beginning, people were passing around an email about who can get a room for us for a Wednesday night meeting. Okay, so this was a community thing. There was probably a dozen people kind of at the core of this, sharing this email, but I got on that email list and I wanted to go. Like, I'm not gonna miss this. This is just way too much fun. It had a feeling like, wow, something's happening. Well, this went on for several years. And then finally, David Weekley, who's been core of this thing, said, we should have a place where we can hang out. We should have our own place. And this was the community aspect of this. And so he and the other guys got together and said, can we put together enough money to actually get a building? And how in the world would this happen? So you guys, what happened is, the whole thing originally happened by people, just like the people in this room, who reached in their pockets and then said, who do you know? Who can we call? To get somebody to get this thing going. And eventually they rented a place right around, just a mile from here. And so the point of it is, it evolved from all the guys and the women that were at the beginning. There was no outside agency, no government, no nothing. It was just a bottoms, ground level thing. And it's always existed like that. And so and it's always been run by the members. Here, this is always run by the members. So if you have an idea, then, handle it, do something. So that's really the good thing. So it's always lived by the spirit of the guys and the girls that come here. I shouldn't say girls, should say the men and the women. But it's always lived by that spirit. And it comes and goes and changes according. And that's why, we're all back now from the pandemic, but the door is open to the creative people. And you won't believe who will show up. I'm not kidding. The one that used to be across the street, it was on Ellis, across from the freeway. You go in there, there would be a Wednesdays or Thursday nights, I can't remember. But Have you ever seen like some of those circuses where the people have the ropes coming and they're doing like tricks on the ropes? They're like 30 feet hanging from some scaffolding. Well, there was people doing that every week at Hacker Dojo. There's guys at the table writing code. There was robots on the other side of the room, and there was acrobats in the back. And like this was Hacker Dojo. It was fantastic.
I'm glad you brought up the pandemic because when you and I were briefly talking earlier today, it was the first time for you to have heard or coined the terms that's being thrown around from a few of us of Hacker Dojo 1.0, Dojo 2.0, Dojo 3.0, and now this Dojo 4.0. And prior to the pandemic, a few of us over here, I see Dr. Virendra, who's the managing director at Oracle, and we got Balaji over here, who we were the co-organizers of Zen for Quantum. And we had a following every Friday night where we talk about the latest and greatest in quantum computing, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and artificial intelligence. And I would have considered Hacker Dojo literally my second or third home. I was always out here. And when it went down under during the COVID pandemic, it really, really affected me. I was sad. I was really, really sad. And once I came to find out that it has revamped now in this space, and mind you, for folks who haven't been in that prior space, I mean, our little corner room for Zen for Quantum was literally this size, all right? We had a room this size, and we'd have 20, 40 folks come out every Friday night. We even had a phenomenal quantum and AI conference in February 2020. And so what we'd like to hear is, you've seen a lot of the different versions of Hacker Dojo. Who or what or the energy, the spirit from the different versions, what can you share with us? Because you're someone who's been in the Valley and you've seen Hacker Dojo evolve, change, and even die, and now we're in a revamp period right now, and it's coming back.
Well, so yeah, I'm glad. I also was at the old one before, and it was kind of a bummer to have the doors closed when the pandemic came. But the cool thing about this is there's people come and go, they get new jobs, they go to new places, and they're very well connected to all the tech around here. So it's really easy for this community to reach pretty much anybody in tech in the Valley and say, could you please call the director of engineering at such and such and see what they think about this Zen computing quantum. And you can get anybody, you guys. It's amazing. You can get to just about anybody. Somebody knows somebody, and they'll ask, and someone will say, well, I can't do it now, but I can tell Mike, and Mike can tell Scott, and Scott will come over. But you can get access to just about anything pretty easily. And not only that, we've had so many phenomenal local tech leaders giving talks here, and the old ones. It's fantastic. That's why it's pretty, it's hard to explain this to people who've never been here. It's like, you can't possibly be meeting all these people, but you can. And you can get access to things. It's really phenomenal. I don't see how anybody can really compete with this because the speed, velocity of which good ideas can go is pretty phenomenal. And you can get, more important is validation on your ideas and help.
That's right. I think Silicon Valley is magical. Hacker Dojo is really something. It allows for people to come together, to connect, to collaborate, to hack, to build. And what would you like to see over the next 12 months or the next 5 years to take this to another level?
I think if we just keep doing this and inviting people to use the space and give talks, the tech talks, in other words, new technology, what we can do with it, just like we've done in the past, because people come here and they take that part and that part, put it together and make something new. It's fantastic. And I want to say something else, guys. When I was in the computer chip business, so I was on the sales side. So I ended up becoming the head of sales internationally, and my sales territory was the US, Canada, but also Asia and Europe. So I traveled all the time. And then our company here was purchased by a German company that wanted to come into the US. So I was flying to Germany all the time. So when I got to Germany one time, I was getting to know the guys, and they were leaders in the tech. And at this point, I was visiting all the key tech territories around the world. And so one evening, I told the German guys, we were out drinking beer, and I said, guys, I want to ask you about some engineering you're doing because, okay, I'm going to tell you, this is what I told them. I said, guys, since we're drinking beer, I'm going to tell you something once, tonight only, and after tomorrow, I'm going to deny I ever said it. So they said, oh, okay. So I said, in this technology you guys are doing, I have to admit, your engineering is better than ours. That was a big deal, but nobody said anything. 2 days later, we're out for beer again, and those same guys said, hey, Austin, okay, you said something to us very complimentary about our engineering 2 days ago. And they said, we were glad that you acknowledged that our engineering in this category is better because it's pretty darn good. But now, since you admitted something one time, we are going to admit something back to you. But same rules. We're drinking beer. Tomorrow we're forgetting it. We're never going to admit this again. I said, okay, great. So now we're kind of laughing and joking. And this is what they said. They said, okay, our engineering in Germany is completely fantastic on the global level. And we feel that our engineering is best in the world. And that's our reputation. But there's one thing that you guys do that we cannot figure out how you do it. And it really burns us up. And I said, well, what is that? And they said, it's innovation. How do you guys do innovation so clever over and not, it's not once, it's not twice, it's over and over. And how do you answer that question? I have no idea how you answer that question. But that was the recognition from those guys here. And I think that's the special sauce. Whatever it is, it happens. And that happens a lot around here. That's what makes it so much fun.
Speaking of fun, innovative characters, leaders, can you mention a story or two that you've seen someone walk through in one of the previous Hacker Dojos that hit it big, started a multi-billion-dollar company, a unicorn?
Oh, I don't know about multi-billion-dollar, but we were at the old building, and there was a guy coming in occasionally working on some kind of display. I go, what are you doing with this display? Well, I'm going to stick it in the watch and hook it into my computer. That was the beginning of this Pebble watch. And he went to Kickstarter and raised more money than anybody. I think he raised $10 million on that. And then he had I don't know the exact details of the story, but he had an offer for the company within a year or so that they turned down, and it was for mega bucks. And then soon after, Apple came out with a watch and the value went down, so they missed their sweet spot. But there's been lots of stories of people that have come and gone that have made fantastic things.
Okay. There are a lot of builders over here, tinkerers, innovative minds, creative minds. What are some words of advice to future founders? Since you do a lot of coaching and you work closely with founders, what are some words of advice you can leave with some of these bright minds?
Yeah, I'll tell you. If you have a great idea, don't be so in a hurry to build it all by yourself. Share your idea, and more importantly, go find out who's a potential customer and ask them for their feedback at the very beginning. And say, you can just take PowerPoints and say, here's what we're working, here's the problem we're solving. Do you guys have this problem? Yes, we do. Well, what do you think about this approach? You guys, I will tell you from the sales side. We make all the customers into two groups, mainstream and early adopters. The mainstream guys are not going to buy your new idea or my new idea because that's not what they do. But the early adopters do. So you ask 20 companies and you probably get 2 early adopters. So you ask them if you have this problem. And when you get them and they say, yeah, say, well, what about this part? Well, your first idea we like, the second idea not so, and then you say, well, how would you do that second part? And you see if you can turn this into a paid project. But in any event, what you can do is get feedback on your idea. My perspective, since I'm from the sales side, is why sit here and invent it by yourself when you can have a potential corporate customer who will pay you to develop it. And that's what we did several times in the past. So that's what I would say. So talk to other potential customers early on, share what you're doing, show them, and take the tough problems. Listen, I got to tell you, early on, when I had the chip business, I saw a press release from Intel. And they had released their product roadmap. Now, they don't really do it like today because they're such a mature company. Everybody expects miracles from them every 2 years, and that's what they deliver. But at this time, they had this press release for a roadmap. I couldn't believe it. I thought the technology was not achievable. And I was in that business. So I went and called them up, and I said, do you have equipment for this part? And they said, no. So I went back to our office and said, guys, we have to make this and make a prototype for them. And I would tell you, the engineer said, that's impossible. So I realize it's impossible, but we really ought to work on this, because if we can do this, this is going to be a career for a few years. So we took apart our original machine, and guys, we only spent about $10,000 on new parts. We made a prototype. At no time did this thing look like a finished product. And we got testing, and it turned into a $1 million order from a prototype idea. And there was never a finished product. That launched the business. Well, didn't launch it. It gave wings to the business and made it grow.
Incredible. I love hearing stories like that. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I would like you to take this opportunity to address not just the crowd here, but people who are watching live on YouTube, and this is recorded on YouTube, people can come back. What are just last thoughts you'd just like to share to everyone on this planet?
Well, if you got a great idea and you want to contribute to the world, do it. This is the do it place. And if you're in town, come over to Hacker Dojo and hang out here for a while and just talk to people. It's really a shame to come here and not talk to people, because there's a lot of great talent around here. So
there sure is. Well, it's a pleasure having you, Steve Austin. Everyone give a hand for Mr. Steve Austin.
Hey, thanks everybody. Always fun to join you.